Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, the Honorable Mrs. Dian Erlina, and all of my friends who I love. We are from Group 11. We will present our material for morphology subject. The material is a word and its relatives derivation. Alright, the first material will be explained by Mutiara Alifah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mutiara Alifah with the student ID number 2020-2050-32, and now I am as a first presenter want to present you about word and its relatives or derivations. Okay, let's start by knowing the definitions of derivations. So, as you can see on the screen, derivations is the formations of a new word or inflectable stem for another word. It typically occurs by the addition of an affix. The derived word is often of a different word class from the original. It may thus take the inflectional affixes of the word class. So, derivations is the process of forming a new word and exciting word, often by adding a prefix or suffix such as an or ness, and then for example unhappy and then happiness, derived from the root word happy. It is different from inflections, which is the modifications of a word to form different grammatical categories without changing its core meaning. Determining, and determinate are from the root determine. Okay, the next material is what is word. As you can see on the screen, the term word is used to design an intermediate structure smaller than a whole phrase yet larger than a single sound segment. The word as represented in writing represent a tool unit or a psychological unit. For example, table, house, courage, faith, intelligence, tall, short, sleep, etc. Okay, a word may consist of a single morpheme. You can see, for instance, rock, red, quick, run, and go, or several morphemes, rocks, redness, quickly, running, and goes. A complex word will typically include a root and one or more affixes. For example, rock plus s, red plus ness, quick plus ly, run plus ing, and go plus s. One more than one root in the compound blackboard and down fall. Okay, the next slide is lexeme. What is lexeme? A lexeme is a smallest semantic language unit. A lexeme has a morphological form, semantic content or meaning, and a synthetic category. So lexeme is basically an abstract notion used in linguistic morphology, the concentrate relations of which is a word. So lexeme is a collection of one or more words in one references or a single references. Lexemes are created from root words by adding prefixes. For example, you can see on this screen, for example, work, works, working, read, reads, reading, run, become runs, become running. So, run, runs, ran, and running are forms of the same lexeme, conventionally written as run. And then another example is find, finds, found, and finding are forms of English lexeme find, yang artinya menemukan. Okay, the next material on next slide is word classes and conversions. So, word classes are groups of words in the language. The division of these word classes is distinguished based on several categories such as word form, function, and meaning in the grammar system that applies in language. English has four major word classes. The first is noun, and then verbs, and then adjective, and then adverbs. They have many thousands of members, and new nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are often created. Nouns are the most common type of word, followed by verbs. Adjectives are less common, and adverbs are even less common. Many words belong to more than one word class. For example, book can be used as noun or as a verb. Fast can be used as an adjective or an adverb. For example, it is an interesting book. It is book. Book in this sentence is being a noun. Okay, next example is we ought to book a holiday soon, and book in this sentence is being a verb. Next, he loves fast cars. Fast in this sentence being adjective. So in English we have two classes of word: open class and then closed classes. In the open class is include lexical words such as nouns, for example, dinner, place, Frenches, and then verbs, for example, meet, drive, go, and pick, and then adjectives, for example, old, angry, and helpful, and then adverbs, for example, quickly, carefully, and fast. Okay, we also have closed classes. Closed classes have limited membership. They include functions words such as pronouns, for example, it, he, who, anybody, and one. And then determines, for example, a, the, that, some, each, and several. And then the next is modal verbs, for example, may, could, and must. And then auxiliary verb, for example, be, have, and do. And then is conjunctions, for example, and, but, it, and unless. And the last is prepositions, for example, in, at, of, by, and with. I think that's all for my explanations. The next material will be explained by Naifa Melia. We can see on the next video.
Hello everyone, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Naifa Melia with student number 2020-5033. I will explain my material. Conversion. What is conversion? Conversion is the word formation process in which a word of one grammatical form becomes a word of another grammatical form without English any change to spelling or pronunciation. Here there are three kinds of conversation. The first is noun to verb conversion, the second verb to noun conversion, and the third other conversions. First, noun to verb conversion. Noun to verb conversion is the most productive form of conversion in English is noun to verbs conversion. The following list provides example of verbs converted from nouns: access to access, battle to battle, email to email. For example, my grandmother bottled the juice and canned the pickles. Alright, in this sentence, bottled as a verb and then canned as a verb. Second, verb to noun conversion. Verb to noun conversion is another productive form of conversion in English is verb to noun conversion. The following list provides example of nouns converted from verbs. To alert, alert, to attack, attacked, to call, call. For example, the guard alerted the general to the attack. Alerted in this sentence as a verb and then attacked in this sentence as noun. The third, other conversions. Other conversions is conversion also occur. although less frequently, to and for from other grammatical forms. For example, adjective to verb. The example is green. Become too green. And then the prepositions to noun, there is up and down. Example, the ups and downs of life. Next, conjunction to noun. There is if and but. Example, no ifs, ands, or buts. Next is adverbs derived from adjectives. Adjectives may also follow the words they modify. Example, that puppy looks cute. Next, adjectives are used to modify nouns. For example, the dog is loud. An adverb is a word or set of words that modifies verb, adjectives, or other adverbs. Adverbs are used to modify verbs, adjectives, or other verbs. For example, the dog barks loudly. Next, adjectives are used to modify nouns. For example, the dog is loud. Adverbs are used to modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. For example, the dog barks loudly. Next, adjectives may also follow the word they modify. Example, that puppy looks cute. Adjectives are used to modify nouns. For example, the dog is loud. An adverb is a word or set of words that modifies verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Adverbs are used to modify verbs, adjectives, or other verbs. Other adverb. For example, the dog barks loudly. Next is noun derived from nouns. So there is a table here. There is suffix, meaning, and example. As we know, suffix have a meaning. For example, like this: and or. And or have a meaning, a person who and a thing which. For example, programmer, operator, compiler, and accumulator. Next, noun derived from members of other word classes. So here there is a diagram about adjective derived from adjectives. I will give some examples to make you understand. Alright, the first is add ness to form nouns from adjectives. Example, ready. They questioned her readiness for the test. Next, there is happy. Example, it is important to create happiness for everyone. Next, there is weak. Example, eating too much cake was a major weakness of his. Second, add it form nouns from adjectives. Example, responsibility, responsible. The example of a sentence: your children are not my responsibility. Next, there is possible. The example of the sentence: none clear words seemed like a real possibility. Next, there is hilarious. The example of the sentence: they reacted to the joke with much hilarity.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nola Sepia. Now I'm gonna explain about my submaterial. It's about noun derived from members of other word classes. Noun derived from verb. First, add ends or ins to form nouns from adjectives or verbs. For example, independent. Independent here used as an adjective. Example in a sentence: having a car has improved my independence. Independence becomes nouns after we add ins. For another example, important. Never underestimate the importance of studying. Second, add mean to form nouns from adjectives or verbs. For example, appoint. Appoint used as an verb. For example, in a sentence, I need to make an appointment with my doctor. Appointment becomes nouns after we add mean. Seems like a sign. The final essay was a very big assignment. Assignment becomes nouns after we add mean. Third, add tion or sion to form nouns from verbs. For example, inform. Example in sentence, there is not enough information about foxes in our area. Information becomes nouns after we add tion. For another example, decide. Example in a sentence, the committee will make a formal decision this Friday. Decision becomes nouns after we add tion. Next slide. Adjective can be formed in different words. They can also be formed to be a new word of adjective. Here are the form of adjective derived from adjective. For example, comic plus all becomes comical. Correct plus I becomes corrective. Red plus is becomes reddish, and etc. There are many prefixes to form a new adjective. Here are some of the following forms of adjective. Un plus adjective, for example, becomes unkind, unwise, unable, unhealthy, and unclean. In plus adjective, for example, becomes incapable, inanimate, insane, indecent, and indefinite. But in changes when it comes before P, M, I, and R. For example, in plus adjective becomes impossible, impatient, impolite, immoral, and immobile. Ill plus adjective becomes illegal, illogical, and illegible. Ir plus adjective becomes irregular and irrelevant. As you can see in the screen table, you can read it by yourself. Next slide. Adjective derived from members of other word classes. First, adjective derived from noun. Di sini kita akan membuat noun menjadi adjective dengan menambahkan full atau li. For example, hope plus full becomes hopeful. Di sini hope sebagai noun setelah ditambahkan full menjadi hopeful. Di sini hopefulnya sudah menjadi adjective. For another example, friend plus li becomes friendly. Di sini friend sebagai noun setelah ditambahkan li menjadi friendly dan menjadi adjective. Second, adjective derived from a verb. Di sini kita akan membuat verb kata kerja menjadi adjective kata sifat setelah menambahkan able or I've. For example, adapt plus able menjadi adaptable. Di sini adapt sebagai verb setelah ditambahkan able becomes adaptable. Adaptable ini sudah menjadi adjective. For another example, create plus I've becomes creative. Create sebagai noun setelah ditambahkan I've becomes creative. Ini sudah menjadi adjective. Alright, the last material, verb derived from members of other word classes. Verbs derived from nouns and from adjectives are numerous. Some affixes and suffixes for deriving verbs from nouns are d and ify. For example, d plus bug becomes debug. D plus forest become the forest. Beauty plus ify becomes beautify. And there are also some common verbs that are derived by replacing the final voiceless consonant of a noun with a voiced one, perhaps with some vowel change too. Parallel to the relationship between believe and believe, although there it was the verb that seemed more basic. Bath, bathe. Breath, breathe. House, house. Breath, breathe. And next, verb derived from verb. This section is unusual in that all the affixes that I will mention in it are prefixes, and most prominent are re and the negative or reverse prefixes on, the, and this, as in the following examples. Re plus enter becomes re-enter. This plus believe becomes disbelieve. Un plus tie becomes untie. D plus compose becomes decompose. And suffixes play plus ed becomes played. Alright, that's enough from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
That is our explanation about a word and its relatives, derivation. I hope you can understand what we explain. Thank you for your attention. We are sorry if we have a mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.